We are very grateful to have you here and looking forward to your thoughts and insights.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm Deb LeClaire, and I am a psychologist and coach working with Sojourn Partners. And Trini's my lovely partner.
Hello, everybody. Lovely to meet you all and see some friendly faces again.
And maybe Atlanta, would you like to also introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Atlanta McElraith. I work at Timberland, where I am the Director of Global Community Engagement and Activation. And I'm really excited to be here today for this conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Atlanta. And Phil, we'd love to have you introduce yourself as well.
Thank you, Michelle, and great to see everybody here. Lots of familiar faces. My name's Phil Coop. I'm one of the co-founders of Revision Energy. We are a certified B Corp and 100% employee-owned company. And what we do is we provide everyone with the cost-effective tools to abandon fossil fuels. And along the way, we are trying to make the world a better place.
And I'm just seeing Richard join. So I'm wondering, Richard, we have started into the panel and just wondering if maybe you'd like to share a message from the Charitable Foundation.
Yes, thank you. I apologize for being late. I just entered the wrong room, so apologize.
Sorry for the confusion.
No, that's okay. So good morning, everybody. I appreciate you all being here today. My name is Rick Peck. I'm the Vice President for Development and Philanthropy Services at the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. We are a proud sponsor of this conference and a proud longtime member of NHBSR. The New Hampshire Charitable Foundation is New Hampshire's statewide community foundation. We've been around since 1962, and we work with generous New Hampshire people and businesses to help make our state a better place for everyone who calls New Hampshire home. So thanks to the generosity of many, including organizations attending this conference today, we are able to award more than $50 million in grants to nonprofit organizations and scholarships to students throughout the state. And we are grateful for these partnerships and want to thank NHBSR, its members, and all of you for your commitment to make our state a place where everyone has an opportunity to thrive. And so you've probably already introduced the speakers, and if you have, then I won't introduce them. So thank you again for having us, and we're happy to be proud sponsors here.
Well, I want to thank the foundation. If you haven't had a chance to open up your engagement boxes entirely, which have wonderful items within them, but I thought it was so incredibly thoughtful of the Charitable Foundation to make a donation to the New Hampshire, it was to the Community Loan Fund. Am I remembering correctly? I remember in place of sending something. So I thought that was a nice way to mention your work and really walk the talk of your work. So thank you so much for all that you do for our communities.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So Deb and Trini, I will let you kick off this panel. And thank you, Richard, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Welcome, everybody. So it's been a pretty amazing day. I think for those of you that have been online yesterday as well as today, I think we're seeing some amazing things. And we have some synchronicity that seems to be happening as we flow through the conference. So pulling together a little bit of what Margaret talked about in terms of experimentation, certainly pulling in what Crystal spoke about, and definitely what Emily spoke about in terms of the new paradigm. We have an opportunity here. So we're going to do a little bit of a meditation again. If you remember, Emily had mentioned it's helpful to do this intermittently. So that's the experimental part. I don't think most of us have that opportunity to meditate throughout the day. So we're just going to do a couple minutes again, just kind of sync up our nervous systems, nourish our nervous systems, and just give ourselves that opportunity to see what it's like to be a little bit more in that yin space. So I'll invite you to close your eyes, or if you prefer, you can look away from the screen, maybe just at a 45-degree angle, a little bit on the unfocused side. Don't be reading anything, in other words, and just come into the body, allowing maybe both feet to be on the floor. And just noticing all the points of contact. So you might become aware of maybe there's a gentle support that's coming up through the floor. Maybe you're noticing maybe a little bit of warmth. maybe places where your feet are coming into more contact with a sock or a shoe or even a slipper. And not needing to make it anything other than it is. You're just noticing. You're just being present with it. You're literally just being with it. And as we breathe very naturally, not trying to make our breath anything other than it is, just allowing that awareness to flow up through the legs and into your seat. And again, noticing that support coming up from the floor and ultimately the earth. And also noticing if there's any tenseness. It's the largest muscle in the body. It's a place we tend to hold a lot of tension. So it's a choice, but just seeing if you'd like to give a little bit more of your weight over to your chair, wherever you're seated. And now coming up through the body, up the central channel, noticing the rise and fall of the belly as you breathe in your own natural rhythm. Becoming present to a sensation around the rib cage, maybe sliding up and down as you breathe in and breathe out. Maybe noticing even a subtle movement in your shoulders. And now purposely bringing in a nice full breath all the way down into the belly, really creating space in the lungs, allowing that breath to nourish and then releasing it, getting rid of anything you don't need anymore. And just moving into your own natural flow of breath. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes if they were closed, or just bring your focus back to the screen. This is what we call the second welcoming, really allowing ourselves to arrive, mind, body, spirit.
That was so beautiful, Deb, and a wonderful reminder to do it during the day. And it always feels interruptive now to begin our program. And so our intention in this fireside chat, we specifically use that language because we want you to imagine that we've lit a fire here and that we're gathered around to listen to two of our favorite conscious leaders, Atlanta and Phil, to help us understand what is conscious leadership in practice and what stories and experiences they have to share with us. So we're inviting you to pull up a chair or pull up a log or whatever you have and just listen in. We do have space for questions, and I invite you to put them into the chat, and Deb and I will be monitoring them during our time together and asking them as we go. Okay.
So Atlanta, we'll start with you. So what does your conscious leadership look like? What is the feel of it as you go through your everyday schedule? How does it show up?
Say that again, Deb.
How does it show up for you?
Okay. First, I think I would like to just say that I strive to be a conscious leader. I don't feel like I'm there all the time, that yang comes into my life a little too much sometimes, but at least I strive for it. And I think for me, it shows up as aiming to listen to the people I'm in meetings with. I feel, Zoom is an incredible tool and we've been living on it for a year, but I try to start meetings with people with a little bit of a grounding in terms of just conversation and hearing how people are And what I've been hearing lately is just that everybody is stressed and stretched. And I don't know what's been going on over the past few months, but I'm feeling it too. And just to have a space to have everyone name that and empathize with each other and encourage each other, I think that just starts a sense of community in a meeting, even if you're on a Zoom screen, that enables meetings to flow better and for people to feel like it's okay to bring their whole self to that meeting. So I think for me, it looks like inviting people, checking in with people, listening. If you hear something's going on, in fact, the other day, I asked someone, how are you doing, really? And they gave me a very sort of dismissive fine that didn't seem fine at all. And you don't want to put someone on the spot, but I sort of invited that person to share more if they felt like it. And after listening for a few minutes, I think they felt unburdened, and just that we were in a space of mutual understanding that just felt like a hug. And sometimes people just need a hug, you know? So I think it's really about just listening, checking in, and creating a little bit of space in the craziness of our days for people to feel like they can bring their whole self to work, and that, yes, and that they will be heard and honored for where they're at.
Absolutely. I don't think we've ever seen more of a time where our humanity has shown, and that people have invited that and said, okay, this. Yep, my dog's here. My dog's here, and I'm in my slippers, and I'm upset. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for that. How about for you, Phil?
So I just want to start with a little bit of framing. Back when I was starting in my business career, looking at the traditional capitalist system that we operate in, the last 100 years has not been kind to a lot of people through the capitalist system and the winner take all mentality. And I really wanted to get away from that in my business life. And so I started studying people like Ray Anderson of Interface Fabrics, and Tom Chappell of Toms of Maine, Jeffrey Hollander of Seventh Generation. And one time, Atlanta, it's kind of funny, back in my early days, I went on a bus ride with Jeff Schwartz of Timberland to go help build a playground in a bad part of a city. And anyway, I learned from all of those earlier conscious leaders that we need a different world. We need to build a different system so that we can be conscious leaders, because it's really hard to be the antidote to traditional capitalism because it's so deeply embedded in society. And so what I have tried to learn from those other kind of pioneers in this space is to try to bring positivity to every interaction, even when it's hard and things feel really overwhelming, like, for example, during a pandemic. Trying to start, every interaction with positivity, being sure to treat every person in our organization and outside of our organization with an equal level of respect and gratitude day to day. Like Atlanta mentioned, starting meetings with some type of connection exercise where we get to know each other better and can understand each other better and form meaningful relationships instead of transactional relationships. I feel like one of the really most kind of rewarding aspects of conscious leadership is to make sure that you're elevating others. Like I see that as absolutely crucial to my own growth and self-care, is to help elevate others and help them succeed in this crazy world. As we've referenced many times, the world is asking so much of us at all moments of every day, with email and telephones and Twitter and Snapface and all those things. And so it takes a lot of conscious effort to not be drowned by those things, and encourage others to recognize that they don't need to feel drowned. Like one of the goals at Revision Energy is to attract good people, empower them, and then kind of stand back and let them unleash themselves on the world with our support, rather than kind of babysitting and looking over the shoulder. I think being the example of what you want to see in the world is really important. So this morning at 5, I jumped up to jump on a telethon for the Good Shepherd Food Bank, which delivers 50 million meals per year to hungry Mainers. And being a leader in the company at Revision, I need to be the person who's getting up and doing that, and setting that example. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. I could go on for too long.
That's great, Phil. And you named a number of different strategies and techniques to keep in mind as we lead our companies really into that emerging future that Emily so aptly described. So here's a follow-up question, and I'll start with you as well here, Phil. So leadership is, there are thousands and thousands of books on what is leadership, and if you had to distill it down into 1 or 2 core conscious leadership qualities, what might you think they would be? What would we want to hone as leaders going forward?
I think that having enough forethought to be intentional with every interaction or engagement or communication that you have, having good intention, and then taking the time to make sure that you communicate that the right way, I think is really important. And then in addition to intention, I would just say empathy, to recognize the world around us, acknowledge the realities that we are all grappling with, and having the empathy to just understand people's struggle and support them and empower them.
Yeah, beautiful. And Atlanta, the same question to you. Yeah.
Well, the 2 words that came to mind for me immediately were empathy, which Phil beautifully described already, and authenticity or integrity. I think that it's important for us to be authentic in our communications with people, be consistent as we move about the office. So you're not sort of showing up as one person for this group of people over here and showing up as another person for this group of people over here. I feel I witness that sometimes, and I find it quite both challenging and disturbing, because you wonder which is the authentic person. So I think that sort of bringing your authentic self as you move about and interact with people, I think models a behavior that your employees feel it's safe for them to bring their authentic selves to work as well. So I think that authenticity along with the empathy are 2 really important pieces that have employees feel psychologically safe and an ability to really be themselves and express themselves where they're at.
That's really beautiful. I feel like those concepts of authenticity and empathy are really an inner game. It's a really that inner, not even a game, inner journey that we have to do. And Emily mentioned the yin place of receiving and being able to access those parts. Yeah.
And to jump off that a little bit there, she also talked about the evolutionary leap. And part of that is some of you here on the call might be familiar with this idea of conscious capitalism. And one of the kind of next steps of where we're going, we've talked about sustainability, and we've talked about we're moving into this consciousness, but there's also this idea of the organization as a healing organization. So Atlanta, and obviously this will be for both of you, but how, maybe using your own company, Timberland, in this case, as an example, how do you see the healing, or how do you see that Timberland could be a healing organization?
Well, I feel fortunate in that I get to work on the corporate social responsibility team and get to envision and help lead a number of the ways in which we aim to be more healing to the world. In terms of, we just announced a goal a number of months ago to create net positive product by 2030. And we're going to do that by designing products for circularity, but also investing in regenerative agriculture that's actually giving back to the earth more than we take out of it. So I feel sort of from a top line how we present ourselves to the world. I work for a company where we have the opportunity to do that externally. Also with a number of the commitments we've made to support the Black and BIPOC communities in some of the cities that really helped build our brand to where it is today, and the work we're doing internally to just increase people's awareness of what it means to be an ally and how we can be more supportive of diversity in our midst. So I feel like we are looking at those things, both how we can be more healing in the world, but also internally. But there's always more work to be done. And I always see, I feel many opportunities, and some of them that we miss, to bring our colleagues and employees together and create more space for them to be their authentic selves. You know, there are people in the building certainly who embrace that and encourage that, and there are other people who do not. And I would love to see us as an organization sort of look more at how we can train all of our leaders in at Timberland to sort of bring those qualities to work. And we're not quite there yet.
Do you feel it'll start with that kind of training first, or is it a culture and training the leaders together?
I think it's both. It's a push and a pull, right? It's sort of the training to kind of give people the tool boxes, or just to think about it as an issue. I do think, I mean, you know, while I'm saying all of this stuff about how I aim to be a leader, I am also often very bogged down in that to-do list. And when Emily said, you know, are you running your to-do list or is it running you? You know, definitely there are periods where I feel like, whoa, it is so running me, and with like an iron fist. So, you know, there's a lot of doing that happens. And I think as an organization, it would be great if we could sort of universally acknowledge the need to do, but also to be. And I think, yeah, there's some growth on that front, I would say, for all of us, you know, myself included, for sure.
Yeah, and that's part of it, is always knowing that you're included in that. We're all evolving.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Phil, how about for you?
Well, let me hope I can be half as eloquent as Atlanta on the subject. But you know, one thing that makes it a little bit easy for me with this question is our participation in the B Corp movement. We are really excited about being a B Corp. We've certified twice now, and you know, we see the immense power of the business community, and we imagine a future where if a majority of companies were B Corps, we would be making tremendous positive change in the world, and healing many of the, you know, the ills from you know, the last 100 years of the way we've been doing things. And so Revision Energy is trying to be the embodiment of the change that we want to see. We are like Timberland, we are, you know, committed to eliminating our own carbon footprint as quickly as we possibly can. We power all of our operations with solar energy, and we have as many electric vehicles in our fleet as we can. We use biodiesel in the warmer months of the year for our installation trucks. And we're making progress, but not nearly as fast as we would like to. So that's, you know, on the nuts and bolts side of that equation, we're trying to heal the planet by modeling that zero carbon footprint behavior that we think is absolutely critical for the atmosphere. Beyond that, we're trying to do a lot of work on the community side. We have a somewhat newly formed JEDI team. That JEDI stands for Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at Revision Energy. And I'm so
awesome.
grateful. Yeah, I'm so grateful for the passion and commitment that's coming into that initiative, that JEDI initiative at Revision. We are involving ourselves with all sorts of kind of JEDI related initiatives throughout Northern New England. working with lots of really excellent nonprofits. Just to take one example, the Black Heritage Trail in New Hampshire is a local organization that we've recently started partnering with. And so trying to do that across as many local communities as we possibly can with as many local community organizations on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. We're also trying to reinvest as much of the company resources into our communities to try to help with the healing. I already mentioned today the telethon for the food bank. We're doing actions like that across Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts at every chance that we get through volunteerism amongst all of our employees, or I should say co-owners, as well as donations of the company's resources towards the best possible causes that we can associate ourselves with that stand to have the greatest impact. And and one kind of fun last piece of that equation is we're actively trying to do like beekeeping at our ground-mounted solar arrays. Pollinators have taken a real beating over the last 30 years from pesticides and other harmful contaminants, and we see these large fields of solar arrays as great places to raise colonies of bees and hopefully help heal the planet in that way. And we partner with a lot of B Corps too. I just want to give a shout out to Badger Balm. I think is a great example. Their products are just absolutely delightful, and now they've gone to 100% clean energy to make all their stuff. And they did that in partnership with us. And to make that happen, it required some very creative financing. And we said, you know what, this is really, really hard to do, but screw it. We are going to figure out a way to knock down this barrier and get it done. And so that has now happened, and it's working awesome for everybody. And so those are some of the ways that we're trying to be the antidote to some of the negative stuff out there in the world and heal our world.
Yeah.
I do think that community engagement and volunteerism is a really good healing balm internally for the employee community, but also to help show up in community. And we've been offering employees paid time to serve since 1992. We're coming up on the 30th anniversary of it. And employees get 40 paid hours. And I see Elaine's on the call. We do a lot of great stuff with girls at work. But I think it's another way about sort of increasing the consciousness of your employees, giving that experience of giving back, giving them that experience to go into communities that they might not otherwise go into and see what's happening there. Our hope is always that it lights a spark in people to get more engaged in their own communities, just by offering them paid time to go and do it on the job, if you will. And I think it's a really key element of again, encouraging your employees to bring their full selves to work and giving them that outlet to give back. I think that helps shift culture a lot in a very positive way.
Beautiful, you both, thank you. I wanted to go to some of the questions that have popped up in our chat, and I'm just going to start with one of them. I like this one. There's several that I really liked, and I'm just going to start with this one from Jay Childs from JBC Communications. How does a company balance a truly invested healing objective of its efforts with the inevitable pressure to roll it into a PR and company promotion? It can be a delicate balance. So basically, right, how do you balance healing objectives into kind of the reality of what the company is doing?
I think you have to start with an awareness of what is your authentic mission in the community. You have to, that's where we start, right? Is looking at what are the needs, talking with the community, how can we fill them, and build an authentic program that is really built around this notion of change versus the story we're going to tell. Once you have the program together and you've had the right amount of community insights and partnership to really form it, then you can tell your story. But you don't want to start with, I need to tell a story. What am I going to do? You want to start with, what's the change I want to see and drive in the world? Let me get that going, and then let's talk about it.
Nicely said, Atlanta. I'll use a real world example. So when Hurricane Maria slammed into Puerto Rico 6 years ago and absolutely devastated their electrical grid, we, the solar industry in Northern New England, got together and said, we really want to help. This is dreadful. And so we collaborated to build these emergency portable power systems with solar arrays, batteries, and portability. So we built 4 of them. And in the course of building them, there were some news stories about this project to render aid. There were lots of news stories about people trying to help. Well, the news stories attracted tremendous support for the project. And instead of building one of these emergency system units, we built 4 of them because the PR generated so much support and enthusiasm. And so if what you're doing is authentic, and it creates PR-worthy exposure for you, then I think that's totally legit. If you're doing it right, it's good for people to know the good deeds you're doing in the world. It shows the example of doing the right thing. Shameless self-promotion is probably not the right approach, but if you're doing good things authentically, you deserve the recognition, and it's encouragement for everybody. And you know what? All of us need hope and inspiration in this world. And so I think good news stories getting out in the world about companies and the employees or co-owners doing that work is really valuable. So I recommend don't hold back on any publicity that might come your way.
I also think that the storytelling, I mean, one of the things I like to see in some of the stories that we tell is that it breeds the sense of accountability, right? We've said we're doing this as part of, as one step on the journey to get over here. And now we have to get over here because we've told the world that that's where we're aiming to go. So when I think about, when we took a long, hard look at ourselves in the wake of the racial unrest in the US last summer and looked at, well, what are we really doing and how can we contribute to Black and BIPOC communities that really help propel our brand to where it is today? And we'd been doing some work, obviously, in key communities, but we hadn't really focused on a whole intention around becoming more a diverse workforce ourselves, as well as giving back very specifically to the communities. I welcomed the fact when we aligned on what our plan was, that we put it out on our website, because that makes us accountable for who we want to be in the world. And that helps us and keeps it top of mind for us to get to where we want to go. So I think you can use the stories, yes, to celebrate, inspire, but also I think they can be very helpful in holding the brand, in our case, accountable for delivering.
So what's really lovely about this, and even that question, and I think other questions are kind of coming in that are similar to that, is it's sort of like it's a new way of being. It's certainly coming from a place of, yes, companies have always wanted to do good, but it's really elevating it even more. And I think it's so helpful to hear where Revision and Timberland is going and has been going. And Badger, since you mentioned Badger is certainly quite huge in that arena. I think it just helps us all. I'm kind of watching people's faces. I see a lot of smiling going on, nodding of heads. So this is really resonating. I think it's just really good to hear that it's happening. It's not pie in the sky. It's happening. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, and so in our design of our fireside chat, we also wanted to give you all an opportunity to have an experience of your own conscious leadership, or where it might be emerging for you. Because Deb had mentioned, this is coming from a being place. You can feel it, and Emily mentioned it as well this morning. And what we know is conscious leadership is about being and not about doing. That's where we begin. So there's a lot of that opening into the yin, accessing it, being able to acknowledge it, work with it, and adding yang to it at the end. I loved how you framed that, Emily. So we want to do this exercise. The purpose of it is to show you that conscious leadership is not just in your head, not just a thought exercise, but actually aligning all three centers, if you will, your heart, your mind, your body. And that requires a lot of courage to do that. It's not easy necessarily to leap forward, as was mentioned. So the question we have for you is this, and actually I changed it, Deb, a little bit just based on this morning's, this morning's question from Emily, because I think it's the better question. So, and if it may be easier for you, it may not, but it may be easier for you if you access your heart. And she talked about that, and I like that. And it's a nice way to access what is really within you, but you don't have to if you don't want to. That's fine too. The question is, what is wanting to be created through you? What is wanting to be created through you? And just listen in for your answer. Maybe take a moment and jot it down on the side. The other way of framing this is, where is your courage calling you in your conscious leadership? Yeah. So just take a moment and jot down whatever comes to mind. Don't need to overthink it. And as you're writing, perhaps there are some emotions that you're experiencing or not. Perhaps there are some bodily sensations you are experiencing or not. Just giving you an opportunity to access that place as well. And just jot down a couple of thoughts that you might have. And then we'd love to hear from your own experience here, and you can just pop it into the chat. What is wanting to be created through you? What might be wanting to be created through you? Just put it right into the chat. Connection, yeah, that's beautiful, Michaela. And if there's other feelings or emotions associated with it, that's okay too. Yeah, it looks like we've got some others coming. Heather, understanding, community, Liz, yeah. Yeah, solutions, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Shared humanity. Connection to the natural world, healing. Solutions that address climate change.
Empathy.
Oh, responsibility for others. That's taking on a new definition as well. Less burdensome and more just inclusive.
Empowerment, empowering others. Yeah. Appreciation. Genuine positivity. Yeah, I like that, Rick. Genuine.
Yeah, fulfillment of mission. Facilitator for both sides to hear each other. Yeah, we really need that now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, relentless optimism. Yeah, holding that. Friendships. Yeah, nurturing. Heart connection. That's right.
Yeah. Patience. Honest conversation. Real listening.
Mm-hmm.
You guys feel the energy rising as this is just sort of where we are in community right now, and everybody's expressing? This is lovely.
Yeah.
I'm so inspired by all of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about what the world would be if these all came to life through us in the world today.
And I think that's where the courage is to take a step towards this.
Mm-hmm.
Abundance, appreciation, equity.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, servant leadership. What a great question, Rick. How can I be the most helpful to my team?
Beautiful, everybody, and just feel that space. Deb mentioned that, and I just want to underscore there's a heart space that's happening here. Yeah, and that's the space we can lead from more intentionally, more consciously, more courageously. And we invite you to be with us on the journey. Yeah. Deb, do you want to? I'm just noticing the time. Do you want to wrap up?
Yeah. Thank you, guys. We weren't sure if we were going to get crickets on that question. So to see how much is coming is so inspirational in itself. So just to close, well, first of all, thank you to our conscious leaders. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Atlanta. Thank you, everybody on the call. Absolutely. And also, because conscious leadership is so important, and it's a different way of being, it's actually moving into these different spaces. It's integrating a lot of what we've been hearing over the conference. We are, through NHBSR, we are looking to, Trini and I are looking to be providing some programming around that. So to help with learning skills and to be having these fuller conversations and being able to give them some real good practicality to them, as well as having the inspiration. You can just keep watching this space. So over the coming weeks and coming months, we hope to be announcing some of what some of that programming will be. And again, thank you all. Thank you all for holding this space with us today.
Well, thank you, Deb and Trini. What a wonderful conversation that we've had. And I want to thank also Atlanta and Phil for sharing some of your experience. I think really opening up and allowing everyone to see what it means to you is so really empowering for all of us. So thank you all for sharing.